We join Ceylon live in the studio.
Well, here we are in the studio in Mexico, and while we were here, I bumped into someone that I'd met previously. You may know him as Bob Hood. If you'd like to join us, Bob.
Thank you very much. Right, now, we don't always put our faces on the camera with different names, but I've been doing some little exercises to do with things that are close to my heart that Ceylon has actually been very helpful in educating me with. And I've been going by the name of Bob Hood because though while we're in Mexico, because it's too bloody cold in Nottingham, Nottingham is where it's based, where the basic rebellion, as people want to call it, but there is no rebellion. Rebellion, what do you rebel against? Something that's wrong?
Well, there's nothing wrong. Everything's working exactly the way it's meant to.
Well, that's what I thought, which brings me to a little point, because being quite instrumental in trying to explain to people that all these fines and things by council officials particularly, aren't actually enforceable.
No. They're all unenforceable, but of course they use their private court system, of which they're a member, and if you go to Northampton Bulk Centre and try and become a member, well, I'm afraid you're not in the club, so you won't be able to. And then they just basically ignore the law and do whatever they want to.
But I mean, this has started off because we've realised that Nottingham City Council, particularly, because it's having to react and interact with myself.
Yeah, but remember, it's Nottingham City Council PLC, private limited company.
Right, well, they're a company now. Yeah. At the moment, I've had lots of fun. So to say that I'm paranoid because things are happening against me is rubbish. Yeah, I'm one man. Yeah, just trying to get on with some work in Nottingham. Now, instances I've had to interact with the agents. It's like a catalogue of it. I mean, if an individual was going to tell you that he's got at least 3 videos where these agents don't want to be identified but want to identify myself and actually get physical with me. These are traffic wardens or what they would call
PCSOs.
Well, PCSOs, I still don't understand what it is because they dress like the police. They say they're not the police. But the council is hell-bent on giving them more powers than the police.
Well, it's not usually the PCSOs, it's usually the council enforcement ones that you see, and you'll see them around Nottingham.
Hang on a minute, council was a service, wasn't it?
Well, it's supposed to be.
So they're enforcing a service?
Yes.
Okay.
Just
so
like
if you don't want it...
Oh, you've still got to pay.
Isn't that a bit like standing on the main road and telling people they've got to go through the Odeon cinema?
Yeah.
No, road's blocked off, you've got to go through, and the man stands there and says it's £5.80.
It's like Al Capone saying this is what you've got to do and do it or else. And that is the perfect analogy.
Right, well I had listened to that, I hope you did as well. Main point being is, do they really have authority? I mean, how does this work? Are we really that enslaved? The example I'm going to give you is a little letter I've been dealing with, which a parking notice was received on a disabled vehicle. Now, apparently, according to this PLC, they've got rules of game that you have to play. Now, if you enter the city, the parking bay, anything else like that, if you're disabled, you're not allowed to stop in the city. You have to leave and not return within, well, you can stay 3 hours. Now, that's their policy bit, which they're trying to enforce, but they haven't got any real logic on it. And I know other things such as it's caused such a problem, this parking issue in Nottingham City Centre, that now other cars which had to leave after 2 hours or receive a fine, if you went and put another ticket in your car, as advised to by the traffic wardens, and the traffic wardens will say, don't worry about your time clock, we'll look after you because we're not evil. Yeah? But those little bits and pieces, they're just trickery and gameplay.
Yeah. Because them bays that you're talking about, if you were disabled, you could stay there as long as you wanted.
No, I promise, I've already had this, and I have to leave the city, even though other people can park as long as they like, because they put stipulations, and their logic, I'm not quite sure, they have to check again with their logic is, if someone was to park there all day, it would cause a problem.
Yeah, because they're not getting an interchange of cars, paying more and more money.
Right, well the same thing on the double yellows. If I park on a double yellow, I can stay for 3 hours. No matter what I've got to do, It's a lot of time to do things, because remember, they believe that disabled people don't work. So if you wanted to work anywhere, you could only work for 3 hours.
So you're saying if you stopped in a bay that is specifically for disabled, once you've stopped your 3 hours, you've got to then leave the city?
Not all bays, because remember, it's about confusion. You've got to read every single notice every time you park, and at the moment they change. Now I'd say I'm not going to say, oh, I'm paranoid, all these things happen to me. I'm being relaxed and just saying, on my own personal issue, I work within a community group. We do things like take over derelict buildings, and turn them into community projects. Get people started. You can't do that when you're wrapped up in red tape. But that's a lot along here, and you used to be able to pull in, and you could even wait 5 minutes all along this street when picking someone up from the station. Yeah? And then they wouldn't give you a ticket, loading, things like that. But outside the building that I occupy, now remember, I'm not being strange, I'll put them up online for you. 3 separate incidences of, should we call it, physical contact with various traffic wardens. We then have, well, I can't even show you many of the videos on there, I'll show you one in particular where a SWAT car, council parking car, will turn up if I pull over on a double yellow line that they've designated that I can't do. And they know me, they get out and say, know me by name, and apparently seen my YouTube videos.
Oh well.
But very clearly explained, I think that was 464, that it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, he's just doing a job.
Well, that's what they said in the concentration camps, and they got proven to be incorrect.
Well, that's what I thought. It's going to be about liabilities. Now, the traffic warden gave me the ticket for parked outside here. There is only a small area, I can only stay for 3 hours. Yeah. The rest of the street, well, should we say not the street, just the part that's in front of my building, just my building, or I can't call it mine, the community building. Remember, they don't really like troublemakers or anything at all. They gave some notice about 18 months ago that we're going to be changing these parking areas to help the logistics of the station. And if there are any objections, which there were, I think it was Ian Nash, his name may be, who told me that there weren't, and also told me that you can't cancel these tickets. I thought we could.
You mean a council official could have lied to you?
No, I think he was misinformed.
Yeah,
but if you were to stop outside of this premises right now, you have 120 seconds before you are fined £140. Now, it's not a game. They decided with the train station and Tesco's, and apparently nobody else interjected. Oh, I think I can tell people who sent letters in. But that was a good idea. So now if you want to pick someone up from the station, right, now remember this is policy and it's for your own good. If you try to drive along Station Street and pull in, you will be fined £140. Don't worry, not all the traffic wardens are now trained in what they call Reg 10, which means even if you drive away you will be fined. And don't worry, because the camera that overlooks that bay isn't always manned by the council staff, particularly Jonathan Smithers, because he spent such a lot of time in the city issuing fines, because he has the correct certificates of law given to him by his council employees to actually act as a witness. So
in fact, we've got a video of him, haven't we, in the spy car?
We've got quite a few, but he's on the cameras watching you now. Yeah, he doesn't really want to be seen himself. But there's a camera facing here, and the plans, well, every single traffic warden has an automatic number plate recognition system built into his ticket box. Yeah. Now, if you stop outside of my shop for 121 seconds, you owe the council £140. Now, they're not trying to enforce that too much at the moment, because remember, it's by confusion as you pull in. It's a game about parking, and they're playing a game with me. And they're telling me that I have to leave the city. Now, I actually wrote to them because I had an issue with this, but I didn't go into what do they call it when you go in
tribunal?
You mean when you speak to the chap in the next room who works for them to decide if you should pay or not?
Although it is actually independent of them, apart from the fact that it is funded by 60p in every parking ticket, so therefore that's not quite as independent as you might think.
It's funded, right. Well, I received a nice ticket. The officer who issued that was 446. Now, he's a very nice chap, he's doing his job and everything else is going along, he's doing this, and at the moment they do feel that they are supposed to do that, and they're covered because they're working for a company. They're actually not causing any harm, they're just putting the notices on. Liabilities for those is something which I will be playing with, because I don't like getting tickets, so I wrote them a very brief letter, and as I say, my name, as I'm known by on these issues, I'm going as Bob Hood. Now, that's just a name. What they try to do is tie to a legal person, yeah, which isn't a real person. It's the thing you use to operate within this society. Name exactly the same as yours, but copyright to the Crown, I believe.
Allegedly.
Right. So it means there's a name that looks exactly the same as yours that you can use to play the game of Monopoly by adhering to that.
Oh, they all refer to it as either the Mister, they put a Mister before it, and a Mister, if you look into your old World War II sea movies, you'll find that all members on the ship were referred to by those higher up as Mister. So, just to let you know, there's something to do with the Admiralty side of things there. Well,
it's just that I actually have come to the conclusion by looking at this myself that there is a very good reason for this name. Yeah, very good reason, and I believe it's actually there to act as a buffer because it's not a real person, and even within the law that they're specifying, they explain in that law.
Yes.
Everything has a definition. They're going to cause confusion. So as you read down from this, a person must be responsible, a person must be liable. Well, what's a person?
Black's Law, first edition, sums it up as a corporation.
Right. Well, in the actual individual acts, you can specify what each word means by its definition. Right. So, on the 1988 Road Traffic Act, I might be incorrect, but the exact definition you've given is not a human being. It's an entity or corporation. It's what it says the definition of person is. But the council's been right into this person. I'll show you how it started by reading you the letter which I've sent to the council. Yeah, just as that big PLC. And it happens quite simply. We put their address at the top to make sure we get there, deliver it by hand. PCN number NG 744259917. Now that's quite a long number, so every now and again I will refer to that as something different. Just the parking ticket. Thank you for your parking ticket. I'm sorry if I've caused you unnecessary work. As you will be aware, I am a registered disabled person, and as such, on the date of issue of the above penalty notice, I was unable to return to the vehicle within the time limit you have specified, as the distance I had covered walking that day had started to cause me considerable pain and discomfort. And if I had attempted to return to your vehicle within the allotted time, I may still be suffering from a more permanent injury. So this does not become a future and continuing issue, please could you inform me of a parking provision within the specified 50 metres? Now really that's a resource to allow people to access who have less mobilities. There must be parking provisions at least within 50 metres to use. Now they will claim that I have my provisions, but I have to leave the city. So I've specified if you can show me where I can park within 50 metres from the space I was occupying. Where I can park, please make sure the parking provisions allow me to park for any length of time and without hindrance. This allows me to continue with whatever task I choose to do without your policy causing me harm or loss, because it would have done. I would have to leave work, leave the community, return when, yeah? Or, as I say, at certain times people have physical conditions which can cause problems, but by licence of law, of course, you can't cause harm to anybody. I also mentioned that I'm also open to any intelligent proposal that will help your policies do not cause any harm to myself or other disabled drivers. Now they did reply, and I thought, well, come on, we've got to get on with this. These laws and things here aren't about money, even though I've already specified that they tend to confuse people. They've changed the policies of parking and how we move around the city to such an extreme level. Everybody knows how complicated it is, but of course they're intelligent and they have authority.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. If you would employ a retarded imbecile to run your company by the book and they just read the book, that will be fine, apart from they're not reading the book. The response. Now, the names will be mentioned on here as well, because unfortunately they've written to a name which is my true person, or one of them, and that means the company I can react with. It's not me. Yeah, it's not me. And I have written my letter, when I gave them that, I gave them a correct name and an address where they could write to. It wasn't the name they decided upon. But what they've decided to do is to pick out a name which they think they can find joinery to, and that's because it's linked on the blue badge, which means there's certain rules and regulations that, unfortunately, we can't We can't even stop the phone ringing. Right. We can't act without these little legal names, but they're taking charge of it. So, very kindly, and I'll let you know who this is from at the very beginning. This is from, very luckily, Pete Mitchell. I have met him. Head of Service, Licensing, Permits and Regulations. Though, at the top of his letter, he's actually put himself down as Processing and Enforcement Services. So he's enforcing a service.
Sounds...
Or is the service actually the enforcement?
Sounds like you've got no choice. You're going to have it whether you want it. And we're going to charge you for it.
He also seems to think that I've appealed. Now, the other thing which I must put firmly into place is, when I returned that parking notice contract, I did it within 3 days because of contract law. Any contract that isn't suitable, yeah, you have 3 days to just literally say no thank you. It doesn't matter what it is, apart from they're abusing the 1988 Road Traffic Act and using the powers that would be there to confiscate or remove your vehicle if you were an idiot driving around 100 miles an hour every single day, jumping red lights. But they've now brought that policy in to say, if you stop here, we can use all those laws against you if you don't pay us our money. I don't know if you call that perversion of law, but remember, this isn't meant to be about income. This is meant to be making care for us. So, thank you, Pete Mitchell. Penalty notice charge. I refer to your a recent letter regarding the penalty charge notice. On the 26th of January, a black Renault motor vehicle, registration, you're not having that, was issued with a penalty charge notice on Station Street as the vehicle was parked in a disabled bay with a 3-hour waiting limit. On an expired time clock. Remember, apparently the policy is I must leave. That's the agreement. I noted to them that it might actually be a bit of a problem with that. But the civil enforcement officer noticed the vehicle at this time, noted the clock was displayed at that time. The civil enforcement officer do allow 5 minutes notice to see if you're loading or unloading. I have attached photographs of my vehicle. Oh, vehicle, I said. I have noted your comments in your challenge. I haven't challenged. Is that correct? Have I challenged or did I reject?
They automatically reply to the way as though you had challenged because they don't know how to respond to a human.
Well, he did reply, that's quite good. It said, disabled blue badge holders bay with a limited waiting time, you are restricted to 3 hours. Yeah, okay, we saw that, but I didn't know that was going to affect me, so I rejected it. The vehicle should have been moved to another location.
Didn't you move it to another location?
Well, I can do, but the whole point is, if I pull up here and I'm working, or helping, or anything at all, then I'm very sorry, but due to the employment situation where I seem to be charged by the council for doing this, I'm afraid I can no longer do this, so I don't know how I'm going to earn an income.
Well, it does sound like they're trying to take your income away from you.
The funniest thing is, remember, you've got 2 minutes to pick someone up from the station as well. That sounds practical. If you haven't, you have to drive 3/4 of a mile round through the meadows. Yeah, and if you pull in again, 2 minutes. You have to wait till the person's actually waiting outside. Right. It tells me about various other things, such as page 10 of my blue badge scheme shows me how much time I'm meant to be. Under the circumstances, I'm to offer you a further 14 days from the date of the letter in which to pay the £35. In other words, no chance. You've got to pay it. Also, the suggestion that they would find me a parking bay within the 50 metres. Well, they haven't actually done that. They've said. Okay. Right, now I was getting a little bit shirty because I began to think that, hang on a minute, even if it's going to cause me harm, the council believe that they can enforce those laws that will cause harm. Yeah. I wasn't quite sure, but what I've been seeing happen from there, I thought I'd use some of the techniques that have been shown by others to use, but really it's to show most people do. So I've written a notice to the council, which I think is worthwhile reading through, but also, luckily, the gentleman, Pete Mitchell, has put a signature onto my correspondence, while addressing it, in fact, to the corporation of the full name, and not myself. Remember, I put a name at the bottom, please contact me, we'll deal with this, yeah, if you've got any issues. Right, first of all, let me know if this is correct, because the council, unfortunately, seem to be the ones that are telling these people what to do, and they're just doing it. Nottingham City Council, thank you for your notice. I have not accepted your terms as I do not feel your company has given due consideration to myself while in the pursuit of monetary gain. As I understand, you have noted that you will require me to give up the full use of my rights of trade and the rights of protection from corrupt individuals. You will also wish for me to give up my right to pursue any individual who causes me harm or loss through legal and lawful means. That's why they want you to applicate. Right. Therefore, notice, I have not understood your notice. Another trick, isn't it, when they use the word like the police officer will ask you if you understand the rights he's reading to you. You can accept those, especially if they're trying to do some good, but you rescind them. These are asking you to do it by mail, aren't they? Any further correspondence on the matter of the PCN must be addressed to myself. I've given them a real name and a place where they can deal with me. They still want to get joined up over the name that's linked through to the bits and pieces they can actually try to get control. I'm me. Right. If you wish to contact the registered keeper of the vehicle, please make sure a copy of this correspondence is attached. The reason being is this is what the council like to do. They will even use DVLA to collect information for non-vehicle related incidents, shall we say. Criminal, I believe that is. So if they send this to the DVLA, I want it very clear that they understand I've identified myself. I will also require the full name and details of any and all individuals that wish to act for you on this matter. And this is for personal liabilities, hence Peter Mitchell. I require full disclosure of their personal details and, last but not least, if I do receive any correspondence, make sure it is signed and clearly identifies yourself. So whoever's going to be dealing and thinking they can cripple someone or take their money or decide where they're going to live and what they're going to do, they show how they've got that authority to do it.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing I want to put on here as well is this is a game and they're playing with the identity, the fictional character that they want you to believe is you. Now, luckily, there are provisions when every act explains what that is. But because I'm not an artificial entity or a company, I would have to be the employee of the company. That's me, the person I've given the address and they can write to me. I will immediately send you a list of my costs and charges should you wish to proceed, including a fee for £500 for this letter. A separate correspondence has been addressed to your agent, Peter Mitchell, for liabilities. Copy included in this bundle. Do you want to see what we're going to do to Peter?
I think we should.
Peter's told me that it's a policy and you have to comply. If it causes you harm, tough poo, yeah, we're in charge of you. I hope we don't march through Czechoslovakia and Poland. Peter. Notes for Peter Mitchell, whilst acting as agent of the Nottingham City Council. Please would you explain why you've decided to address me by the corporate name and not the name that I have given? Under what presumption do you assume that I'm acting as the legal entity and not the flesh and blood person? This is where they want joinder. Please confirm that you, Pete Mitchell, I think that's how he addresses himself actually, understand the meaning and definition of person as listed in the act or acts you are referring to. Luckily, within this law game, when they make it very complicated, there have to be rules.
Yeah.
So, on that 1988 Road Traffic Act, check it for yourself. Peter's got to do this one, but it will say it cannot be a human being. I've given him a human being to talk to, and he wants to address a company. Right, so, should you wish to continue to act under the corporation and contract law and address correspondence to the Mr. company here? Well, if so, would you please explain how you've come by this name, and is it by coincidence? I've sent them a letter telling them who I am and want to speak to them because they may cause me harm or loss. But, of course, I haven't given that name, so I want to know. At no point have I or will allow you to use that name to demand sums of money from that accountable company, which is how it should be addressed. At no point would Mr. blah 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 be able to levy any costs or directions that would cause harm to a real person. You couldn't do it. You couldn't have a company that takes money but, you know, basically we're going to hurt you for it.
Well, there is no such thing as a real person anyway.
Well, let's have a look then. So what have I put down here? Yeah, blah blah blah, able to levy a cost and direction cause harm to a real person. So really, can't cause harm to even a real person. What am I then, a human being?
You're whatever you think you are. I'm just a being.
Ah. And is so designed, this is what your name, which they're complying with, and it's the corporation name, whatever you like, they take control of it, but it's there for a reason, it's there to protect you. Right, remember I was saying I'm not accepting getting rid of my rights to deal through this company law if they want to harm me. Right, now a real person, and is so designed to stop any bogus, fraudulent claims against myself, as I've addressed before, that you may wish to cause physical or financial harm. And of course the name, Mr, is not a living being. So please stop writing to this name. It is not possible for that name to operate without employing myself, which is why I've chosen to charge. If you choose the latter, meaning to write to the corporation company that you believe I'm dealing with, then I will be acting for them, because a dead entity, a company with no administration, cannot act. If you choose the latter, then note I will be charging a minimum of £150 for each question or correction I have to endorse through my personal action. I've already told him that he can't pursue me. I've already got charges for him. From this point onwards, if you choose to contact the Mr. Blah Blah Blah, you must show full lawful contract signed by myself or signed letter from yourself that you have authority to act. Assumption is not acceptable. Because of course he's playing contract law, isn't he? Can you assume anything in contract law?
Yeah. Well, they're assuming everything, and if you don't rebut it, then you agree to it.
Okay, but I've rebutted it. Yeah. Yes, you must show that you have legal entity and permission to use that company. Default on this point will levy a minimum of £500 per instance. And remember, they're using my company, and they said they've got rights to do it. If they have, fair enough. If not, I charge for using my company of £500 per instance. And the use of the said name, or any other spelling or written names that are linked to the person, that's of course the legal bit, I will charge them. Also, I wish to know of any correspondence, internal or external communications, that have been using the trade name of blah blah blah, as I have not given your company any authorisations to address any of my persons. I'm hopefully taking control on here. If I'm not, they're taking control of me. Now, ignorance is no excuse. And I finished off with your reply, expected with charges noted. I'm going to be charging from this point on. Or notice of your personal self withdrawing of your name from all actions. If no response is made within 7 days, I will assume any litigation will be naming you, Peter Mitchell, as the aggressor. And this will be accepted by yourself. As far as I'm concerned, they're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't write to me. So what do you think is going to happen next? Because I've got a feeling a parking ticket, with the way the illusion is, might get me killed.
Well, let's just say that you've given certain options and you've given ways to deal with them.
Right.
It's now, the ball's now in their court. They either deal with it honourably, or they totally ignore it and just push ahead.
Right. Do you think I've done the right thing by actually taking the name of the person who's acting?
Well, this is the big thing, the big problem that most people have is they are scared of the name. The name's there for you to use. It's just you've got to know when you can use it and when not to use it. Absolutely take control of it whenever you feel like. For instance, as a friend of mine usually says, if someone turns up the door and says you've won the lottery, quite right, yes, I'm Mr. Ceylon, definitely. But if someone turns up saying, are you Mr. Ceylon? And I go, why? Because what, TV lads? He goes, well, what's it got to do with you? Yeah, I haven't got to answer anything. So you use it when you want to, and you can choose not to use it when you don't want to.
But most of it is the companies say they have right and authority.
Yeah. They presume that.
They do.
And unless you rebut it, they will assume that that's correct.
That would be useful then, won't it? Because they say, I know the council's got some very interesting, particularly Nottingham City Council, has a very interesting policies of dressing as many people as they can to look like police officers. They even have special belts and the names. The cars all are looking like police cars. They say civil enforcement. And then there's a little badge that they're sponsored that says police on it. Now lots of people think they are police, and I think that's the danger. What other policies? Oh, particularly for Nottingham. That fear, they want to complete me, yeah, and I'm very scared they're going to get me these real police officers. They're getting individuals to sign away their rights if you're a council tenant, to allow these pretend police officers more rights than any police officer.
Yeah, you want to put a stop to that straight away. The councils, all councils all over the country, are trying to get you to sign a new agreement. In that, it states that they have the right to enter your property any time they feel like. It's a contract, so you can cross that bit out and say, no, that access is denied, if you want to sign a new contract.
Well,
that's an option.
I think the reason we've been doing that is by April this year there's going to be announcements that everybody has to pay council tax whether you've got money or not.
Yeah.
Lawfully, should we say lawfully, even legally, they can't take money out of people on benefits or any type of benefits, and a large majority of council tenants are actually reliant on this system. They're panicking they're losing the money, so what they decided to do is to take the money from them by pretending they have the right to do it.
Which they can't do under the Social Security Administration Act.
No, because this is planned, yeah. Oh, what a big surprise if everybody knows this. They can't take benefits. So the plan is to arrange for each and every person to have a corporate loan to that name, to pay the council, to police them, to pay the council tax. So it's a sidestep. If you're going to be at a point where you need some help and assistance, that help and assistance is now going to eat you. Yeah? If you've not got the money to pay your council tax, you have to leave your house.
And on that note, we're going to have to call it...
Well, I think I better go deliver these letters. If you think they're right,
yeah.
And let's hope within the next 7 days we'll get a response, and we'll see if a traffic violation. Hang on a minute, I was parked, and that's for revenue. If a revenue organised scheme can get me killed, what do you think?
It's just an insurance scheme, just like the mafia run.
But you know, I'm going to be threatened with. Will they threaten me with legal procedures next?
Probably.
Are they lawful?
No.
Will I be able to react to those in a lawful and correct manner?
Well, pointing out the fact that you're not entitled to pay the fine in the first place because Bill of Rights Act 1689, which states Section 2, paragraph 12, promises of fines or forfeitures before being taken to court are illegal and void. So they break the law every day.
So as long as I actually deal with it, as soon as the ticket comes, like I have done, it goes. But they'll pretend it doesn't.
They'll try and confuse you.
And then I'll have charges against those people.
If you push it that far, yeah.
Then I think it's a case of seeing who pushes harder. Thanks a lot. Okay. Anyway, where are we now? What country?
Mexico.
Okay, I'm just having a look outside. I think that's a llama.
Maybe time we got...
It's getting a ticket! Right, here we are. Pete Mitchell. Nottingham County Council. Oh, that's the wrong one, isn't it? Oh well, we'll have to make sure we change that when we get in there. It's by hand.